a real honor to be here, and I think calling me the editorial assistant is a bit of a stretch because I was the assistant to the assistant. Any of you that received manuscripts to review for Tet-Let sort of between 1988 and 91, I typed the mailing envelope. But let me back up a little bit. So I'm here on behalf of Elsevier. I work for Cell Press, and we in the Tetrahedron Group are cousins within the Elsevier family. And I've been asked by my colleagues in Elsevier Chemistry to really emphasize for you how much they appreciated everything that Harry gave to the Tetrahedron family of journals during his long tenure with them. And that all those efforts were incredibly appreciated. And that he was the kind of editor who really made a difference in scientific publishing. And I can give you just one example. So I actually met Harry in the fall of 1988 and wasn't familiar with Tet letters, and looked at the journal and realized that in the table of contents there was a picture, there was a graphical abstract for every paper. And what I only recently learned was that was something that he very much pushed for. And the first graphical abstracts appeared in Tet-Let in 1986, sort of in the middle of the year. It existed in maybe one or two other journals, but this was really sort of the first time that authors were encouraged and then eventually required to provide one that was camera ready, so that when the paper was accepted, it was ready to go. And that's now a widespread feature of journals, of chemistry journals, but also some biology journals too. And I think we've heard a lot today about the way that art and vision sort of informed every aspect of his chemistry, and that's one where chemists that are trained now don't even realize they're being influenced. So that, for contributions like that, he's had a really long-lasting impression. So as I said, I first met Harry in the fall of 1988 because he advertised for a work-study student, and I was a sophomore chemistry major. And I started off and I did a number of things for him. It was kind of show up today for work and let's see what is in store for you. And he would preface it with, your mission, should you choose to accept it. And I have to confess that the first time he said it to me, I didn't get it. And he had to explain it to me. And that was before Tom Cruise reminded us all, where that comes from. And so one of the things I started off doing, he had an enormous collection of samples of molecules that had been made in the lab that he would occasionally, he had a catalog of this, he would occasionally send them off to pharmaceutical companies to test. And the catalog hadn't been updated in a while. And so he wanted me to go through and update the catalog and check to see that the samples were in order. The samples were stored in old cigar boxes on the shelves above a desk in the lab. And so that project really wound down when I found that sort of 70% of the white crystalline solids were in fact black oils. And no one was really interested in them. And so eventually I transitioned into a job in the office. And that's really where I got my first taste of what the peer review process is like and how science progresses. And so he would, have a manuscript, and I worked with both Barbara and with Mary Lou, those of you who remember them. And I learned about how, you send out manuscripts and reviewers are asked for their comments, and you have to have a system to this or it can get out of control pretty quickly. And his system was a box of file cards that had all the reviewers' names on them, what they, when they reviewed, if they had any peculiarities, slow, doesn't like that guy, stuff like that. Important to know. And then one of the projects that I took on was sort of bringing that into what was the time, the modern era, developing a computerized system so that you could actually keep track of it without having to do, this. And so I think that at that point, so that's where I started. And I think at that point, trying to push that, what was really a very manual process, into something that could, take advantage of modern technology was another way that he was really trying to keep that journal fast and forward-thinking. And so that was a privilege to work on. But I also, because I was a chem major, had the privilege of sitting in his lectures. And we heard earlier about how he had, because he was wearing a wireless mic, how he could wander. And we referred to it as Orgo with Phil Donahue. Because he would come and he would sit down next to you and say, so how's it going today? What do you think of that? And students knew that it was going to happen, and it was random, and you just kind of took it as part and parcel of it. And so we saw earlier the Margarita lecture, and the one thing that I would leave you with is a memory of another lecture that he did. I don't know how many of you experienced it, but he taught the Grignard reaction. And to help us remember it, he said it to the tune of America the Beautiful. And so it was "O Grignard the Beautiful," and I'm not, you don't want me to sing it for you, so I won't. But if you just, any of you that remembered, if you want to hum, start with, the carbonyl is polarized, the carbon end is plus. The nucleophile will thus attack the carbon nucleus. And it goes on from there. So I couldn't find, I think I still unboxed somewhere, I have a copy of the full text. But so I guess where I would leave you with is, whether you're a research scientist or whether you're an undergraduate student, there is nothing like learning from someone who has a passion for their topic and a commitment to communicating it in any way possible, whether it's precise chemical reactions on a board, whether it's a great visual example, or whether it's just taking the time to get to know you as a person. And that's what Harry Wasserman was all about.